Hi, I'm Hemel, a qualified business analyst, project manager, and program manager who has over 18 years of work experience as well as a master's in information systems. Today, I'm going to take you through your path to personal financial freedom. Let's start with a question that most of us quietly avoid. If your income was to suddenly stop tomorrow, how long could you stay financially afloat? Maybe days, weeks, potentially months? But without any borrowing and without any stress? Well, those who can answer that question with a smile on their face, that's not luck. That's financial freedom. And today, I'm going to walk you through a practical, data backed roadmap to get there, using real UK and global financial facts that most people don't even know about. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what to do, but why it matters, backed by numbers that you just can't ignore. Think of financial freedom like climbing a mountain. There are four base camps to go through. Firstly, you want debt removal, and that's by removing all the high interest debt and giving you the ability to save and move further up. Then we have stability, where you're protecting yourself from any potential financial storms that may come your way. Then we have growth. This is where you make your money work better for you and work better than your spending. And finally, we have independence. This is where you are in control of your life decisions and you're not driven by the cash flow. Each of these stages builds upon the one before it, and each one is backed by real stats showing where most people struggle and where you can succeed. Let's get straight into it. Debt isn't just the money you owe, it's money that steals your future. According to the UK Financial Conduct Authority, nearly 40% of adults carry unsecured debt, with the median around £2,500. That may not sound enormous until you realise the same money could be earning returns instead of costing you interest. High interest credit cards can charge over 20% annually, and no investment strategy reliably beats that. And there's no guarantee that you'll be able to earn that money through interest. Now, here's a simple strategy that's been proven time and again. Write down every single debt, balance, interest rate, and minimum payment that you have. Then tackle the highest interest first, while keeping the other ones at least on the minimum payment. Now, why is that important? Because shaving debt with the highest interest costs a lot of money, and this way it frees up cash the fastest way. And if your credit score is decent, consider a balance transfer to a 0% interest card, but only if you commit to the plan and pay it down before that 0% period ends. Once a debt is gone, don't celebrate by spending. Celebrate by redirecting that money straight into savings and investments. Now it's time for you to build an emergency fund. And here's where most personal finance plans break down. In the UK, 1 in 10 adults has no savings at all, and more than 20% have less than £1,000 tucked away for emergencies. Imagine if a boiler broke down, or a job was lost, or there was an urgent medical bill. Without even a few £100s to cover it, that's a reality for millions. An emergency fund isn't about being wealthy, it's about being protected. So, how much should you have in your emergency fund? Experts have generally recommended between 3 and 6 months of essential expenses as a really good safety net. Real data shows the median UK saver with cash savings, excluding extremes, holds between 5 and 6,000, which is probably a couple of months of basic costs within a household. You know what? That's an average, not a target. But it tells us two things. Most people are underprepared, and it takes planning, not luck, to get there. The way to start this is aim for £1,000, then scale up. And keep it in an easy access savings account so you can actually use it whenever you need it. Once your emergency fund has between 3 and 6 months of savings, then you're in a strong position. Savings aren't just built by intention, by the way, they're built by consistency. A recent UK report showed that households save around 9 to 10% of their post tax income, depending on the data period. That's good, but it's nowhere near enough of what is required for most people for their long term goals. Here's how you can supercharge your savings. Firstly, automate. Move money on your payday before you even see it. Secondly, have separate accounts. A dedicated emergency account will just keep you honest. And the third one is increasing over time. So, for example, if you get a bonus or a pay rise, don't go out and splash that money on the latest phone or the latest car. Use that to increase your savings over time. And that will put you in a position of feeling very comfortable. In fact, recently, UK savings surveys reported that the average emergency fund across savers was around 4,500, and that does include extremes. But many people have far less, sometimes even zero. This automation and discipline from the base is great for long-term wealth. So now we move to the juicy part, investing. Savings alone will not be able to beat inflation. Inflation in the UK has been somewhere between 2.5 and 3.6% recently, and many of the savings accounts can't keep up with that percentage. That means your cash could lose real buying power over time, and that's also where investing comes in. Global data from long-term investing studies show that across centuries and across equators, that stocks and shares have returned more than bonds or cash. In some scenarios, such as the S&P 500, over the last 100 years, the average return has been approximately 8%. Now that's the power of compounding growth. It's one of the biggest reasons why investors get ahead over time. Now, when you start investing, a term that you should be very familiar with is compound interest. Let's just break down what compound interest really does. If you invest early and let your returns grow and earn returns on those returns, time becomes your biggest asset. For example, a UK stock market investor who reinvested dividends constantly over a long-term period would have seen returns vastly exceed the same lump sums left in cash. And over many decades, even small annual differences add up dramatically. This is why starting now and starting early matters. Something else that's important is to diversify. Diversification isn't complicated and it is really effective. Don't put every pound into one stock or one sector or one asset type. Mix between different stocks, different bonds, some cash, maybe property, maybe even some international exposure, and this reduces the risk without sacrificing the growth. And once a year, as a minimum, check your allocations. Rebalance if you need to, and make sure your money is aligned with your risk tolerance and also your future goals. At this moment, I'd also like to talk about pensions. The UK has one of the world's largest auto-enrolment pension systems. Your employer must contribute, and many offer match contributions that essentially double your input up to a certain point. Experts recommend saving roughly 10 times your average working salary by retirement, and many suggest targeting around 12.5% of income towards pension contributions each year. Why does this even matter? Well, state pension alone will likely not be enough to lead a comfortable lifestyle, and early contributions benefit to the most of the long-term growth that you need to have a successful retirement. So let's just have a quick look at this financial journey at a glance. We've got 4 steps here. The first one being stability, where you're paying off high cost debts and make sure that you're starting to build a safety net for yourself. Then we have growth. This is where you're saving constantly and you might be starting to dabble in investing. Then we have wealth. This is where you start to see your investments grow through dividends, by increasing stock value and compounding. And finally, we have independence. This is where you've got a diversified portfolio, you monitor it on a regular basis, you let your compounding work. At this point, you can choose if you work or not, you can choose what you work on and when you work. In other words, you choose what you want to do with your time. And this is not theory, this is how the data shows successful financial lives evolve. So I'm going to finish off here by saying financial freedom isn't about getting lucky. It's about understanding patterns and making smart decisions repeatedly. Start small, start consistent, and most importantly, start now. Even if you begin with just £20 or £50 set aside each month, that momentum will propel you forward. And one day you'll look back and be glad that you didn't wait to get started. If you found this really helpful, hit like, subscribe, or even drop a comment below about your own financial goals, because the first step to freedom is actually showing up.